Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're not new. So today's video is going to be reviewing something that has been circulating the beauty community. This has been one of the most controversial topics of the week, and many people have a lot of different opinions. And what I'm talking about is the one, the only, Anastasia Beverly Hills' new Subculture palette. So I ordered this palette on August the 1st on Sephora online. It was available and was released, so went on the computer, typed in, clicked it, and purchased it. I wanted to try this palette since they kind of leaked it, since it came out, because I love the Modern Renaissance palette. Who doesn't? Realistically, if you have this palette, you love it. The colors are amazing here, the blendability. Anastasia Beverly Hills has a lot of good products. Her liquid lipsticks, single eyeshadows, glow kits. They've been kind of having a miss with this palette. A lot of people haven't been liking it. I haven't tried it out, so I decided to do an unbiased review. I watch so many different reviews from different YouTubers, small, medium, and large, and then micro, small, me. And so many people didn't like it, and then there was so many that did, and it was just, this palette's been so confusing. So I want to try this out for myself. I'm the kind of person that if you tell me there's a bear outside, I'm not going to believe you until I go outside myself and I'm face to face with the bear or see it. Yes, I'm an idiot, I know, but I'm a see it to believe it kind of girl. Yes, I can look at all these reviews, but I'm still so impulsive and tempted to try things out for myself, and this is what I wanted to do with this palette. It's so controversial, so many people hate it, so many people love it. My first impressions of this palette, when you open it up, just nice. I use the crap out of the Modern Renaissance. So since there's been all this drama around this palette, I want to compare the two. Same brand, and they are the sister palette. This was the original, and the Subculture is supposed to be the sister palette. It's supposed to complement each other, so day and night. Smokier, darker looks, and obviously like more neutral, everyday kind of looks, but you can totally make shadow, dark, smoky looks with this one as well. And it's just interesting to me that this is supposed to be the sister palette to the Modern Renaissance, but they decide to completely change the formula. So before I get into this video, I just want to talk about like the ingredients and the formula change. There's no surprise that ABH changed their formula for the Subculture palette. I hope in the future, if they're releasing any more palettes, that they're gonna stick to Modern Renaissance and not Subculture. Just because you don't mess with the good thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So I just want to compare the ingredients first. If you look at the back of these palettes, Modern Renaissance has so many more ingredients, so many little scribbles of words all over it. And of course, what everyone's been talking about is the first ingredient. In the Modern Renaissance, it is mica, and in the Subculture palette, it's talc. Both mica and talc are like powdery substances. It's kind of like the filler for eyeshadows. Doing my research, mica is a powder that is more, I don't know how other words to describe it, but it's more hydrating and has like a pearlescence to it. It's just not as drying as talc. So I can totally see why people are having problems blending this shadow out. Because think about it, if you have a drier shadow, it's gonna cling on to things and be more patchy, instead of just like a smooth, more hydrated, blended out shadow like the Modern Renaissance had. Also, since there's so many more ingredients in the Modern Renaissance palette, they probably put more thought or a process to those shadows because they have more ingredients just to hold them together. While Subculture, yes, it has less ingredients, maybe it makes it a little bit more pigmented because you don't have all those extra ingredients, but it just doesn't stick together as well. Therefore, the problem of fallout in the Subculture palette. Don't get me wrong, Modern Renaissance has a lot of fallout as well. In my Too Faced palette, they're not as pigmented as the Modern Renaissance, but they don't have nearly any amount of fallout like the Modern Renaissance did. It still has a lot, but it has nothing compared to the Subculture. I saw multiple people reviewing this palette saying like, oh, they have the same amount. No, like Subculture for sure 100% does. But you can use a lighter hand to pick up more product, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depends your preferences. So now I'm gonna go on to show you swatches of both of the palettes compared, just to show you maybe the pigmentation, what shadows perform better than others, the different formulas. So now cut to the next frame with a bare face, and I'm gonna show you the swatches and the fallout. So I already know how the Modern Renaissance palette swatches. This is going from the top row all the way to the bottom. So at the end we have Real Gar, And then at the top, of course, tempera. So this is it. This is Subculture. So Cube is actually here, but it's not showing up very much. So what I found with the Subculture swatches was the mattes are more pigmented than the ones in the Modern Renaissance, but the shimmers do not show up as much as the ones in the Modern Renaissance. As well, the transfer in the shades, these are these 3 shades over here. So when I folded my arm like that, just by accident when I was moving around, it was so quickly to transfer. So I don't know if that's a sign for maybe the fallout that's gonna happen, but in the Modern Renaissance palette, when I fold my arm, none of the colors transfer like the ones in the Subculture palette did. So from doing my finger swatches of the Modern Renaissance palette versus the Subculture one, I found that Modern Renaissance, the shadows were a little bit more creamier and not as dry, versus the Subculture palette, which had really pigmented shadows, but the formulation was dry and there was that transfer of color when I bent my arms. So now I'm going to test out the fallout from the Subculture palette versus the Modern Renaissance, just to see how much fallout there is. Some people say it's the same amount. I've seen others, obviously a lot of people say the Subculture has way more, so we're going to test this out. So I'm going to go in with raw sienna. There's not too much fallout everywhere. When you shake it off, there's still a lot of powder. Now I'm going to go use Real Gar. Tap that in a couple times. As you can see, the brush is nice and covered. There's not fallout all over the pan on the outsides, just kind of like a little bit of dust on the eyeshadow in the palette. So now I have Real Gar on my brush. I'm going to tap it off and see how much powder goes everywhere. Still a lot, you could see a little bit. I'm also going to try the shimmers from this palette. So I'm going to use Primavera on the other end of the brush. Tap it. Only fallout I see is in the pan again, just a couple crumbles, nothing on the outside. And now I'm going to tap it out. I don't know if you could see that, but there's a little bit of a cloud of makeup dust. That's kind of normal. This palette has fallout. It's like inevitable. The shadows are soft, but now I'm going to see the Subculture palette to see the real tea and how much fallout that one has. What a lot of people are saying, so much fallout to the point that people are hitting pan, or if it's just the same amount as the Modern Renaissance. So the first shadow I'm going to try out is Roxy. This color Roxy was causing a lot of problems. Alyssa Ashley actually was the first person to come out with like a really intense negative review, and this was the shadow she hit pan on. So I'm going to tap into it and I might do a swirl. Okay, so I tapped into that like 3-4 times, and the fallout wasn't as bad as I expected. I thought this was gonna go everywhere, and I tapped normally. Let me try this again. There's some powder going everywhere. I don't see anything in the box right here. The shadow is, there's obviously like a little bit of shadow everywhere, but I was kind of tapping in pretty hard. And this is the powder I got off of my brush while I'm dipping it. So now I'm going to tap out the color Roxy. When I tapped it out, I noticed there's way more powder in the air than there was when I tapped out shadows from the Modern Renaissance palette. So now I'm going to swirl the shadow Roxy again 3 times, like a big swirl. I want to see if I'll be able to hit pan or anything that's going to happen with the shadow, but I'm going to do like a full swirl, like 1, 2, 3. These shadows feel like you don't need to grab so much product to get a lot of pigment. They're already really pigmented, but you just have to be careful. And that kind of sucks for like the regular consumer, aka people like me. If it wasn't for YouTube and different reviews, how would I know how to use this palette? That seems like a hassle, or like I really have to do my research on it, because it should be easy for anyone to use, right? It's being sold at Sephora. It's not like an exclusive makeup company, or you have to have an exclusive like membership or be a certain level of a makeup artist to own this palette. Anyone can buy it. Now I'm gonna swirl my shadow 3 times to see what happens to it. 1, 2, 3. Still a lot of fallout. There's a lot of pigment on this brush from doing that. You wouldn't need this much to go in with an eyeshadow look, to be fair. Like I'd probably do 1 of these and that would be fine. I wouldn't need 3. Let me tap off the excess. Yeah, that's a lot. Just doing those swirls, obviously you can see there's a lot of fallout. And I know this is the first time I'm using it too, so that kind of sucks. And you can see there's a little bit of that shadow now inside of the box here, all on the outsides. I didn't hit pan using that shadow. Maybe I wasn't like going in intense enough or like doing a swirl, but I just did like a regular swirl that I would use 3 times, just exactly in a full circle to where I started. So I don't know. I'm kind of happy I didn't hit pan, but there's a lot of fallout in this shadow, way more than the Modern Renaissance. So in Subculture, I also saw that Makeup by Shayla hit pan on the color axis in the corner. I'm gonna swirl into that shadow and see if anything happens as well. So first I'm gonna test like the fallout, just tap into it. 1, 2, 3. That made a really good dent. So as you can see, there's not a lot of fallout outside of the pan. It's just like really in it, which is normal and which we saw in the Modern Renaissance palette too. Now I'm gonna tap off the excess off the top. As I'm seeing right now, there's a lot of powder in the air again. A little bit more than the Modern Renaissance palette for sure. So now again, I'm gonna swirl it in 3 times, 1 full circle to see what happens. 1, 2, 3. As you can see when I did that, there's a lot of fallout. It didn't hit everywhere outside the pan, but in the pan on the corner, there's a lot of powder. I'm gonna tap it off to show you guys. So now with the other end of the brush, I'm gonna go in with electric and I'm gonna see how the fallout is with this shimmer shade. You can see I did a couple swipes down. I don't see any fallout outside the pan. Obviously like a little bit on the outside of this corner right here. Just like a tad bit of a stain. The shimmers don't have as much fallout for sure as the mattes do. So in comparing Modern Renaissance and Subculture for fallout and pan hitting, I didn't get any pan hitting with my palette. I don't know if it's because of the batch that I got. Maybe there's some inconsistency with this new formula, but I can say with this new formula, there's still that a lot intense fallout. This palette is way more messier than the Modern Renaissance. When I tapped into my shadows and swirled them, I didn't hit pan, but a lot of fallout went everywhere. It's kind of messier, it's all over my hands right now. Personally for me, fallout is not like a huge like downfall. I'm not gonna not buy a palette because it has fallout, but this has way more than the Modern Renaissance for sure. I'm gonna be doing an eyeshadow look on one eye Modern Renaissance and the other Subculture to compare the blendability and the pigment that's gonna happen on my eyelids. But first, your girl needs to wash her hands. This is literally a new top and it has fallout all over it. Kinda sucks, but should have probably worn an old shirt today. I'm gonna be prepping my eyelids with the Tarte Shape Tape, and then I'm gonna set it with the Laura Mercier translucent powder on top. This concealer can cover any mistake, any lie, any crime. I kid you not, guys, this is some heavy coverage shit. Now I'm setting it with the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. I'm not gonna show too much work of the Modern Renaissance palette side, just because I think a lot of people know how it performs. Everyone loves that palette already. It already has such a high name for itself. So I'm gonna show a couple steps, but I'm gonna probably fast forward it or kind of skip a couple. But with the Subculture palette side, since it's brand new and it's a lot of controversy, I'm gonna show every single step with that one. But I might speed it up because I don't want this video to be 10 hours long. Taking the brush that comes with each corresponding palette, I'm using Raw Sienna and Burnt Orange, and I'm gonna put it in my cabeça. So now I'm gonna take Red Ochre, and I'm gonna focus that shadow on the outside of the lid. These eye looks are gonna be simple, no cut creases, no fancy decorative fruit here, just simple eyeshadow looks. As you can see, Modern Renaissance has fallout. I never do my eyeshadow last, I always do it first. That's just like a habit for me. That's just how I do my makeup routine. Keep picking up Red Ochre, and I keep sweeping that on the lid. So now I'm gonna take Primavera and I'm gonna spray it with some Fix Plus just to intensify it. I always do this with this shadow. All my shimmers, I do it, it's just a habit. As you can see, this is the Modern Renaissance eye look on this side. It's very simple, very basic, nothing special going on. Literally just a bunch of colors on my eyelid. But I just wanted to show like how the shimmers perform, the mattes, the blend in between everything. It looks okay. You know what? For the average girl, it's looking good. Whatever. Now it's time to do the Subculture side. I'm excited, I'm nervous, so I think I'm gonna be doing like a blue-yellow look and then with like Adorn on the lid. So we're gonna try that out now. So I'm gonna grab this big fluffy brush. This is the Sigma, the E40. I'm gonna pick up Dawn first. I put that in my crease. I'm not having any issues with it so far, but to be fair, it's a very light shade. So now that I focused Dawn up here, it's in my crease. Now with the same brush, I'm gonna move on to New Wave, which is that orangey yellow shade, and I'm just gonna put that all over my crease as well. Take some more of that. All right, this is my lid. I don't see any problems with blending. However, I don't really see that shade pick up too much in my crease. It's not that pigmented. Maybe I should just like not knock off all the extra off the brush. I'm gonna try that next and put a little bit more of New Wave in the crease / over the lid. Yeah, it's not as pigmented as I thought it would be. It's starting to show up now on camera, but in person it's not showing up that much. I told you guys, I'm very messy. So far, I'm not pissed about the blending. Like, it's a little bit darker in here, but to be fair, I put that other shade on top of it. But like, I don't think it's that badly blended. Like, I think everything is like, you know, half-assed, decent, like for my kind of skill. Like, let me just take more of New Wave. Let me just dab it. Here, this is the color I was talking about. So now I'm gonna go in with Access. I'm gonna try to put that all over the lid to darken it up. This part, I feel like we might run into some problems if there's any, but we're gonna see. So I'm gonna grab some Access on a flat top brush, like, I'm just gonna put it on the lid. Bring that shadow. Keep packing it on just to get all over my lid. So I don't know, like I'm not experiencing any problems yet. So now I'm gonna blend it out into my crease because obviously I don't want this harsh line. Like I'm not trying to do cut crease right now. So I'm gonna take that same E40 again, put some New Wave on it. And I guess this is the moment of truth, guys. Holy shit, that's a pigmented. Okay. Now it's like, okay, maybe I fucked this. Yeah, Mama fucked it up. So now I'm blending. So now for New Wave is like covering. I go back in with Access because I kind of lost that color. Yeah, I lost the color when I was blending this shit out. I'm gonna use the brush it comes with and then just use Dawn. Oh my, see the thing is these shadows are too pigmented. Like I feel like I don't have control of where I'm putting it. Like no, I feel like I have no control over these shadows. Those two are not blending. Like I feel like when I do this, I lose the previous color that I was putting on my lid, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is so far that side. I feel like it doesn't look as smooth. It looks a little bit more patchy. So you know what, I'm gonna put the shimmer on top and try to fix it all up. Apply Adorn with some Fix Plus and I'm gonna put that on the lid. I keep coughing because of all this fallout. Like all the dust in the air. To be fair, that happens to me a lot with makeup, but it's like happening extra today. Yeah, let's start just like right here. I feel like a mess. Okay, let me show you guys something. So on this side, I feel like it blends so much better into the like right my inner corner, okay? On this side, I know it's a strong color and it's a blue, but when I put a little bit of shadow here, I just wanted a hint, it just didn't blend as nice. Like maybe I need to play around with this palette more. This is a first impressions. Maybe I shouldn't have gone in with that intense color, but at the same time, I really just wanted to try it out. So pretty much right now, my verdict on these shadows, the darker shades are gonna be so much more patchier and harder to work with. Other than that, like the lighter shades in this palette, I feel like are good. They're decent for blendability in my experience, but the dark shades, it's a mess. And these shadows cover up each other. They get lost within one another. Like I put that yellow New Wave shade and the only area you can really see it is right here. So this is the complete look. My face is all beat, all done, lashes on. My lashes are looking a little wonky on this side, but hey, sometimes we have those days. So this is the Modern Renaissance side and this is the Subculture side. Access, like this bluish teal color that I used, it's a nice color, but just especially over here on like the inner lid right here, like the inner corner where the lid kind of meets, it was so hard to blend out that shadow there, and it was just a little bit harder to work with for sure. But I recommend this palette only if you're curious. If you are so curious for yourself that you need to find out what's up with this palette, buy it. It doesn't hurt to buy it because yes, it's a lot of money, but if you're buying from Sephora, they have an amazing return policy if you're not happy with it. I'm gonna give this palette a couple more weeks just because this is my first impressions. This is my first time playing with the palette. I know it has a lot of fallout, and I was coughing so much, like with all the, not fumes, but like all the powder, like it was just like getting my throat really scratchy. For sure, these darker colors are patchy and it's hard to work with, but the light colors, not too bad. And I hate that there's this argument that, oh, you need to know how to play with this shadow or this properly. Like this palette, like I said before, is offered to everyone. It's not an exclusive thing. Anyone can buy it, so should be able to be in the hands of anyone. I totally agree with the fallout issues, the overpowering pigment, that it's kind of like taking away pigment from the other shadows when you try to blend it out. Some of the darker colors are a little bit more patchy, but overall, I don't hate this palette. I don't hate it enough to return it unless it gets worse and I find that these shadows are not working as well as they did today. You're going back to the shelf. Sorry, honey. And on another note, if you don't own an Anastasia Beverly Hills palette and you're kind of pushed away to purchase one now because of the Subculture palette, don't be. Palette is beautiful. It's Modern Renaissance is why so many people were so upset over Subculture. It's because this is like the holy grail, the must-have. And I feel like the shades are just so much easier to work with too. Like this palette has like those dark, beautiful, rich tones. But at the end of the day, this palette is just versatile and is for everything. I'm just gonna give you a quick metaphor about these two palettes. So Modern Renaissance is the one that got away. The classic, the best boyfriend you'll ever have. He's just all around the perfect guy. Now Subculture. Subculture, you know what? He's that hot jock. He looks amazing, beautiful. You're just like, I wanna date him. But once you get to know who he is and you start to date him more, you kind of see who he really is on the inside. A lot of fallout, a little bit harder to work with. You know, it's not as blendable, easy, but he still looks amazing and you kind of stay with him. Modern Renaissance is the classic, the best boyfriend, the boyfriend that your parents, friends, dogs, pets, everyone approves of. And Subculture is the really hot boyfriend that you really, really want, and you kind of like figure out his true colors, but you don't really know what to do yet. That's just my thoughts currently right now on this palette. You have to be a smart consumer. The makeup industry is thriving. You know how much money is put into the beauty industry? Billions of dollars, okay? We have to know when to drop our money and when not to. And if you guys don't want to get this palette and you have doubts, don't get it. But if you're kind of questioning it, as I said before, Sephora has a great return policy. Anastasia Beverly Hills made multiple tweets saying if you're not happy with your palettes, they will take care of you. I hope this review was helpful for anyone. And I know I'm not the best at makeup, and that's good. It's good to see different people from different levels trying out this eyeshadow palette. Thank you so much for watching this video. And remember, like always, sub it if you love it. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.